August 8, 1941. Outskirts of Odessa, southern Ukraine. Morning fog clings to the broken orchard rows, the air thick with the smell of overturned soil, cordite, and the sea drifting in from the Black Sea coast. Artillery thunders in the distance, slow, rhythmic, like a giant drawing breath. And somewhere ahead, beyond the ravaged trees and half-collapsed farm buildings, the shadows of advancing infantry belonging to the Wehrmacht creep toward the Soviet defensive line. She lies on her stomach in the damp earth, cheek pressed against the stock of her 7.62 Mosin Nagant Model 1891-30 sniper rifle. The weapon is long, heavy, and brutally simple, but in her hands it becomes something else entirely. Her finger rests just outside the trigger guard, breath steady, pulse calm. Around her, the Soviet 25th Rifle Division stirs in hurried, nervous fragments, runners darting between trenches, officers barking clipped commands, machine gun crews adjusting their firing arcs. But she barely hears any of it. She is locked onto a single shape, a German scout crawling toward a hedgerow, believing himself unseen. You see the battlefield through her eyes, narrowed, patient, calculating. She adjusts her scope 3 millimeters to the left. Wind, negligible. Distance, 370 meters. Target speed, slow. Movement pattern, predictable. A calm voice in her mind repeats the same discipline drilled into her long before she put on a uniform. Exhale, commit, finish. She squeezes the trigger. The rifle cracks, the scout's helmet jerks to the side, an abrupt, lifeless motion. His body slumps into the grass. Her spotter whispers, "Hit." She has made her first confirmed kill of the war. The orchard falls silent again. It's a strange silence, unnatural, suspended, as though the front lines themselves are holding their breath. Because in this single act, in this precise shot delivered across a fog-choked battlefield, something has begun that none of the soldiers around her yet understand. By winter, her name will travel across trenches, barracks, and even German propaganda lines. Commanders will whisper it with pride. Enemies will utter it with unease. Specialized counter-snipers, some trained, others improvised in desperation, will be deployed to hunt her, men assigned with one mission: find the woman with the long rifle. But all of that is in the future. Right now, she simply shifts her weight, scanning once more along the advance routes. She counts potential firing positions, maps the high ground, notes the bodies, rifles glinting under the morning sun, and she waits. This orchard becomes her first true hunting ground. The German infantry hesitates after the shot just for a moment. It's minor, almost unnoticeable to anyone not looking for it. But she sees it, the slight pause in their advance, the uncertain crouch behind a low stone wall. Already, fear begins to work its way into the ranks. A Soviet sergeant crawls toward her trench, mud streaking his face. "Another position for you, comrade," he mutters, handing her a folded map smeared with grime. "Command wants our best eyes on the southern road. Tanks might try a push." She nods. She doesn't speak much in moments like these. She rarely needs to. The sergeant glances at the German body still lying in the grass. "Good work," he adds, then moves off, shouting for a mortar crew. She adjusts her rifle sling, crawls backward out of her nest, and begins repositioning slowly, methodically, keeping her silhouette low. She moves like she's always belonged to the landscape, a shifting contour, a shadow slipping between shadows. By noon, the day grows hot, the wind kicking dust into spirals across the ruined farmland. Smoke from burning supply wagons drifts over the trenches, stinging the eyes. German artillery begins to walk closer, shells landing in tight, deliberate patterns meant to peel back Soviet defenses. One blast sends a rain of soil across her helmet. Another slams into a nearby bunker, splintering wooden supports. Yet she keeps crawling, dragging her rifle, removing a small entrenching tool to dig a new firing position beneath a tangle of collapsed fencing. Her spotter joins her minutes later, panting. "Incoming patrol," he whispers, lifting his binoculars. 4 men, possibly 5. She steadies her weapon again. The orchard has become a battlefield, the battlefield has become a hunting ground, and the hunting ground has become a proving ground. Every shot from this moment forward will shape her legend, though she doesn't think in legends or grand narratives. She thinks in wind, distance, timing, and angles. The patrol emerges through the haze. She exhales. Another shot breaks the stillness of Odessa. The crack of her rifle still echoes when the patrol collapses into panic, one man dropping instantly, another diving behind a shattered cart, two more scrambling for cover that doesn't truly exist on this flattened, unforgiving orchard floor. The battlefield reacts like a living organism, twitching at every disturbance. August 18, 1941, Western Defensive Line, Odessa. Barely 10 days have passed since her first confirmed kill, yet the rhythm of war has already accelerated into something relentless. The smell of burning grain silos hangs over the fields, horse carcasses rot between trenches. The ground itself seems bruised from weeks of bombardment. She wipes dust from her scope and settles deeper into the crater she and her spotter spent the morning digging. Overhead, Soviet fighter planes claw at the cloud ceiling, engines sputtering as they tangle with incoming Romanian dive bombers. The earth trembles as another bombing run slams into the supply road behind them. None of it interrupts her focus. Ahead, German infantry shift toward new footholds, slow, steady, trying to encircle the city. Each movement is careful now, deliberate. Word has spread that a sniper is operating along this sector. They don't know her name yet, but they know her presence, and fear has a distinct body language. Her spotter leans close, two officers, South Ridge, range 450. She raises her scope, breath quiet, heartbeat steady. Her weapon rests on a sandbag, angled just slightly downward to compensate for the slope. Through the glass she sees them, field coats dusty, helmets tilted back, one consulting a map, the other scanning with field binoculars. Officers, a priority target. She inhales, the wind hums across the trench line. Exhale, squeeze. The nearest officer buckles instantly, dropping the map. The second freezes, staring in disbelief at the body beside him. He hesitates just long enough. Another shot. The ridge goes still. Her spotter grins, too clean. But the moment doesn't last. Shells whistle overhead, high, shrill, and unmistakable. German artillery saturates the area, zeroing in on the ridge she just targeted, hammering it with explosive fury. They won't risk advancing while a sniper watches them, so they try instead to blind the entire battlefield with smoke and debris. A shell lands close enough to shower them with dirt. Her ears ring, the ground shakes. She presses her body deep into the crater, hands covering her helmet as shockwaves rip across the line. The world turns briefly white with dust and pulverized stone. Her spotter shouts something she can't hear. Only when the shelling pauses does she lift her head. Smoke curls across the field, thick and choking. The ridge is now an indistinguishable cloud of dust. She looks through it anyway. Even through haze, she sees shapes, 3, maybe 4 German soldiers dragging the officers' bodies away, risking their own lives to retrieve the fallen. Not mercy, not respect. They fear what she might do to anyone left exposed. Already, her rifle is shaping their behavior. By late afternoon, Odessa's defenses roar back to life. Soviet mortars bark from hidden pits. Machine guns chatter from reinforced dugouts. Infantry surge forward just long enough to repel another probing attack. It's a brutal rhythm, advance a few meters, fall back a few meters, and bleed for every inch. She crawls toward a new nest beneath a collapsed barn roof. Every move is slow, practiced. Her hands scrape across broken tiles, dirt cakes her sleeves, sweat stings her eyes, but her breathing never wavers. Her spotter returns with a battered canteen. 5 confirmed today, he says. Command wants you to send another report. They're tracking totals now. She doesn't react outwardly, but something settles in her, an awareness that her role is changing. Not just another rifle in the line, a weapon with a name. She peers over the barn's edge. Enemy troops move cautiously now, bending low, keeping to trenches, scanning for glints of glass. They have become students of her habits without ever seeing her face. This is the moment every sniper eventually reaches, a turning point. When the enemy begins hunting you. She senses it even now, the odd stillness across the orchard, the way certain German helmets linger too long above the grass, the subtle glint of a scope from a distant haystack. A counter-sniper. She lowers her silhouette, heart suddenly alert, not panicked, simply aware. The battlefield has become a duel. One mistake, one unguarded second, that's all it takes. She steadies her breath, surveys the terrain again, and lets the hunt reset. The next shot won't just determine her survival. It will shape the legend forming around her name, still whispered, still incomplete, but unmistakably growing. The air remains unnervingly still as she lowers her silhouette. The ruined barn around her creaks with every gust, its charred beams jutting upward like the ribs of a dead animal. She steadies her breathing, bringing the world back into sharp, clean focus. August 24, 1941, Outer Defensive Belt, Odessa. The morning sun rises harsh and white, stripping away shadows and exposing every broken contour of the battlefield. Dust hangs in the air like a thin veil. Behind the line, Soviet trucks rattle past carrying crates of ammunition and sacks of potatoes. The smell of diesel mixes with the metallic tang of blood and burned earth. She wipes her scope with a cloth, slow, deliberate circles, then slides forward until her elbows rest on a pair of carefully stacked bricks. Her spotter watches her movements with an anxious edge. He saw the same glint she did yesterday, and he knows what it means. The Germans have sent someone for her. Not regular infantry, not a patrol. A specialist. Somewhere out there, lying just as still, breathing just as slowly, another rifle waits for her to make the smallest mistake. She scans a tree line 600 meters ahead. Nothing, just rippling heat and distant shapes that could be helmets or rocks. She shifts to the left slowly as if every degree of motion is measured in seconds. Another shimmer, still nothing clear. But she feels him. Her heartbeat steadies, instinct taking over. Counter-sniper duels are not battles of speed, they are battles of patience. Whoever moves first loses. Her spotter whispers, "German reinforcement convoy, North Road, tanks and trucks." She nods, but her attention stays pinned to the tree line. The convoy isn't the threat. Then a flash, tiny, almost invisible, appears in a burned-out farmhouse window far beyond the tree line. A reflection, a scope, or a trick of heat. She exhales, sinks a fraction lower behind her rifle, and lets her eyes soften. The human brain sometimes sees too much when it tries too hard. Relax the focus, widen the field, let movement reveal itself. There. A faint shift, a silhouette lowering, someone adjusting a position. She doesn't fire. She waits. No shot comes immediately, which tells her everything she needs to know. This isn't a novice. This isn't a frightened soldier hoping for luck. This is someone trained, patient, deliberate, willing to hold their breath for minutes at a time. Her opponent is playing the same game she is. The barn's timbers groan softly overhead. A loose tile slips and falls with a faint clink. Dust drifts down across her sleeves. She freezes. Nothing, no bullet tears through her cover. Good, the German hasn't pinpointed her exact nest yet. But he's close. Her spotter leans in. "We should move," he whispers. She shakes her head. Too risky. Movement is exactly what he wants. A shifting shadow, a silhouette rising, a careless elbow placed too high, any of those would be enough. So she waits. Minutes become longer, stretching like thread. The battlefield hums faintly with distant machine gun fire and the grinding of tank treads along the northern road. A column of vehicles inches forward, armored cars, troop transports, even a half-track bearing the insignia of the Luftwaffe Felddivision. Dust billows behind them. A tempting target-rich environment. But the rifle remains still. Her survival depends on ignoring everything except one man. Finally, the German sniper makes his mistake. It's tiny, so small a less trained eye would miss it. A quick shift in angle, just a fraction of a head tilt, enough for sunlight to catch the rim of a scope. The glint flashes only once. She locks onto it instantly. Distance, roughly 730 meters. Wind mild right to left. Angle slightly uphill. She draws one slow breath. Exhale, commit, finish. The shot cracks like a hammer. A faint cloud of dust erupts inside the farmhouse window. Then nothing. She watches for movement, 10 seconds, 20, 40. Still nothing. Her spotter finally says, "He's gone, you got him." She keeps her rifle trained on the window another 30 seconds before lowering it. Sniper duels are not won until confirmed, but she feels it, the tension draining from the air. The battlefield has exhaled with her. One counter-sniper down. But this victory is only the beginning. As Odessa tightens under siege, more will come, some trained, some reckless, some desperate, all with orders to kill a single Soviet woman. Because her name, spoken quietly among German ranks now, is starting to carry weight. A weight that frightens them. Her name moves across the front like a rumor with sharp edges, traveling first through the trenches of the Romanian regiments near Odessa, then into the briefing tents of the German High Command. Whispered, repeated, studied, she has become a factor in their operational plans, an individual rifle reshaping the behavior of entire platoons. October 2, 1941, northern approach to Sevastopol, Crimean Peninsula. A Black Sea gale lashes the cliffs. Waves slam the shoreline far below, the wind howling through the ravines like a living thing. The retreat from Odessa is over. Now the Red Army funnels its surviving divisions into the massive defensive ring around Sevastopol, fortresses, tunnels, bunkers carved into stone. She steps off a transport truck and feels the vibration of distant artillery through her boots. The port city is already choking with smoke. Civilians rush between shelters. Sailors from the Black Sea Fleet haul crates of ammunition into fortified positions. The streets smell of wet stone, coal smoke, and fear. She tightens the strap of her rifle across her back and climbs the rough steps leading toward the Sapun Ridge defenses. Her new assignment will place her at one of the most heavily targeted sectors of the entire front. And command wants her here for one reason. Her presence changes outcomes. A political officer escorts her to the bunker entrance. The Germans have reinforced the siege, fresh infantry and artillery from the 11th Army, more experienced men, better equipment. She says nothing. He adds, and they know about you. We intercepted radio chatter. They're looking for the woman with the long rifle. She simply nods and descends into the dim, rocky tunnel. Inside the ridge, officers gather around a flickering lantern. Maps and reconnaissance photos cover the table. The chief of staff points to a cluster of trenches overlooking a valley where German divisions are massing. "We need your rifle here," he says, tapping the position. "Enemy forward observers have been too accurate. Every time our artillery fires, they bracket us within minutes." Forward observers, highly trained, hard to spot, the kind of target only someone like her can neutralize. She studies the map, notes the ridgeline contours, the possible sightlines, the likely approach routes. "I will need a spotter," she finally says. "You'll have one," the officer replies. "Pick whoever you trust." She already knows who, a quiet, steady infantryman named Leonid who survived Odessa with her. He never speaks out of turn, never rushes, never distracts her with unnecessary words. They leave the bunker together minutes later, two silhouettes moving into the night wind above Sevastopol, climbing toward the exposed observation posts. Before dawn, October 3rd, Sapun Ridge. The sky glows faintly, washed with pre-sunrise gray. German artillery thumps in the distance, each impact rolling through the stone like thunder trapped underground. Leonid lies beside her, passing her a thermos. She sips the bitter, burnt coffee mechanically. Below them, through her scope, she sees enemy movement, careful, crawling figures dragging field radios and signal flags. 4 men, one scanning with binoculars, another adjusting a rangefinder. "Observers," Leonid whispers. She adjusts her rifle. This position is brutally exposed, thin soil, jagged rock, barely any natural cover, but the view is perfect. Every inch of the enemy valley is in her sightline. She steadies her breath. The first observer drops with a single shot, his radio falling from his hand. The others freeze, then scramble. The second falls before he reaches cover. The third manages 2 desperate steps before collapsing. Leonid murmurs 3. But she's already searching for the 4th. She finds him farther back than she expected, face pale, hands shaking as he tries to pull a telephone cable toward a trench. She fires. The bullet hits the ground just beside him. He panics, sprinting toward the trench. She chambers another round. Winds have shifted, subtle but crucial. "Exhale, commit." The shot hits the base of his skull. He crumples without a sound. Leonid exhales, a low whistle. 4, that should slow them down. Slow them down, yes, stop them, no, not for long. Because even from this distance she sees it, German medics moving in, officers pointing urgently toward the ridgeline, field engineers laying down fresh cable. The Germans will adapt. They always do. But so will she. By afternoon, the enemy is cautious, feeling the sting of her rifle. They probe from different angles, sending scouts in pairs. She picks them off one by one. 4 scouts in the first hour. 2 machine gun assistants in the second. A radio operator just before sunset. Each shot deliberate, each shot earned. Her total is rising fast. So fast that German forward units begin requesting smoke screens before attempting to advance. Platoons refuse to charge unless armor leads the way. Officers crawl instead of walk. Helmets stay low. Heads turn nervously at every broken window, every ridge, every pile of rubble. Her rifle has become a psychological weapon. And that is when the Germans escalate. Radio intercepts confirm it that night. A specialized marksman platoon has been dispatched to her sector, an entire unit, not just one hunter tasked with shutting down a single Soviet sniper. The Germans have given her an unofficial title now, muttered in frustration, fear, and grudging respect. Die Rot Spin. The Red Spider. Not for her rifle, but for the way she moves, appearing, striking, vanishing. She loads another magazine, checks her scope, and prepares for what comes next. Because the siege has only just begun, and she knows tomorrow will be worse. She loads another magazine beneath the flickering lamplight. The tunnel walls tremble as distant artillery rolls across the ridgeline. Outside, Sevastopol burns like a city forged in fire. Every night the horizon glows red. Every morning the smoke returns thicker, and still she climbs back into her nest before dawn. December 12, 1941. Central Bastion, Sevastopol. Snow drifts across the trenches in thick, swirling sheets. The cold bites at exposed skin, numbing fingers until they feel carved from stone. Frost hardens the sandbags, breath fogs instantly. Even rifles ache in this weather, metal turning stiff and reluctant. Yet she lies prone on an icy slope overlooking the German staging grounds near the Meckenzivi Mountains. Leonid shivers beside her, tucking his scarf tighter. Their camouflage is crude, white bedsheets tied over greatcoats, but effective. Below them, German infantry cluster near field stoves, stamping feet for warmth. Trucks rumble into position. A battery belonging to the 11th Army prepares its guns for another bombardment. She tracks one officer, tall, stiff posture, barking orders. A rangefinder glints near his chest. Target calling artillery, Leonid whispers. She exhales slowly, letting her heartbeat settle. Crack. The officer drops instantly, collapsing sideways like a puppet with its strings cut. The soldiers around him scramble for cover. Leonid murmurs, "Good start to the morning." She doesn't smile. Because something feels different today. The first strange sign comes an hour later, drifting through the freezing air on a loudspeaker mounted atop an armored car. A German voice booms across the valley, loud, theatrical, almost mocking. "Lady Sniper, we know you are there, we know your skill. Why die for Stalin? Come over to us, we will give you warm food, medical care, and safety. You will be treated well, you have our guarantee." Leonid stiffens, "They're trying to bribe you." The voice continues, louder, angling its taunts directly toward their sector. "Think, Fraulein, you are young, talented, why waste your life for a lost city? Cross the lines, we promise no harm will come to you." She stays perfectly still. The Germans won't see her. They're guessing based on where their scouts died, where their observers fell, where their own counter-snipers never returned. But they know enough to aim the broadcast at her. The loudspeaker crackles again. "Your comrades will abandon you, but we WWII will spare you. This is your last chance, little girl with the rifle." Leonid bristles, they think you'll respond. But she understands the tactic. This isn't persuasion. It's fear. They are trying to break her focus, trying to make her reveal herself, trying to lure her into frustration, anger, or reckless motion. She simply lowers her cheek to the rifle again and waits. Eventually, the loudspeaker falls silent. By afternoon, the Germans try a new approach. A sniper duel, 3 separate glints spotted in different sectors. 3 marksmen looking for her at once. It's no longer one hunter. It's a hunting party. Leonid whispers left ridge, haystack, and the broken chimney, all three. She calculates faster than she breathes. Haystack too exposed, likely a decoy. Left ridge terrain is good, but the angle is poor. The chimney. That's the real one. She rotates her rifle a hair, just enough to adjust the angle without revealing motion. Her gloves creak softly, the wind stills. A tiny movement, a shadow adjusting its rifle, betrays the German position. She fires. A spray of brick dust erupts as the sniper slumps half out of the chimney ruins. Before the others can respond, she shifts positions, rolling to her right, sliding behind a shattered concrete slab, adjusting her aim by instinct. The second counter-sniper appears, just the edge of a helmet rising to get a view of her original nest. Greg. He disappears. The third takes longer, 15 minutes of stillness. 30, an hour, he's careful, more careful than most, changing positions, trying to triangulate her. Leonid taps her elbow once. Far right, the broken fence post, look for the one not covered in snow. She spots it. He brushed it accidentally. Bare wood exposed beneath frost. That's all she needs. She steadies her breath. Exhale, commit. The fence post erupts in splinters. Leonid whispers 3 down. But she's already scanning for more movement. Germans don't send 3 unless they're willing to lose 3. And that's when she sees the body. One of the fallen counter-snipers is wearing insignia she recognizes, an experienced marksman from a reconnaissance battalion, not some green recruit. A man with at least a decade behind a rifle. She killed him at nearly 800 meters. The Germans will not take this lightly. Night falls over Sevastopol, sharp and cold. Flames from burning supply depots flicker against black sky. The rumble of artillery continues without pause, a constant heartbeat of the siege. Back in the bunker, she scribbles another report for command. 3 counter-snipers eliminated. 7 infantry. 2 officers. Her running total climbs. 10. 20. 50. Then more. And more. Until even officers in the bunker begin watching her with a quiet, reverent awe. Not fear, respect. Deep, unshakable respect. Leonid sits nearby, cleaning his rifle. They won't stop, he mutters. They're losing too many scouts, too many observers, they have to get rid of you. She nods. Because tomorrow, they will send someone new. And they will fail again. Because her legend isn't peaking. It is still rising. Night settles like a heavy shroud over the battered bunkers of Sevastopol. Her tally rises. The German efforts intensify. And somewhere in the cold, wind-scoured darkness, she senses the shift, the moment when hunts become vendettas. January 14, 1942, Southern Sector, Sevastopol. The morning is so cold the air feels breakable. Frost clings to every rifle barrel. Breath turns to crystals. Even the crows above the trenches sit silent, hunched like black knots in the skeletal trees. She lies in a shallow depression carved into the hillside, wrapped in a white camouflage cloak stiff with frozen mud. Leonid lies beside her, binoculars pressed to his eyes, whispering ranges through chattering teeth. 3 Germans, engineers, laying mines near the ridge, 200 meters. She shifts the rifle a few degrees. Her gloves stick briefly to the cold metal. She adjusts her aim, inhales, and fires. Greg. The engineer falls. The others dive behind a collapsed stone wall. A second shot. Then the third. Leonid exhales sharply. That one, that was your 100th, wasn't it? She says nothing, but they both know. 100 confirmed kills. Not in a career. Not across years of campaigns. But in 6 months of brutal siege warfare. Somewhere among the German ranks, officers will be reporting this. Somewhere in a field tent, a commander will slam a fist on a map. Somewhere in Berlin, her name will be mentioned in frustration and disbelief. Lyudmila Pavlichenko. A woman the Germans had expected to break. Instead, she is becoming a force none of them can contain. By noon, the battlefield shifts again. Snow begins falling in thick, drifting curtains, excellent conditions for a sniper. Visibility narrows, sound softens. The world becomes a whispering blur of white and shadow. She crawls forward through the snow, careful and silent. Her cloak blends perfectly with the drifting flakes. She becomes a pale ripple across the hillside. Leonid points to a half-destroyed observation nest where a group of German soldiers huddle behind a broken anti-tank gun. Look, something's off. She sees it instantly. One of the soldiers isn't scanning like an infantryman. He's still too still, watching the wrong direction, measuring distances. A sniper, she whispers. But he's not hunting from distance. He's waiting for her at close range. A bold move, dangerous. Almost suicidal. She sinks lower into the snow and waits. 10 minutes. 20. 30. Finally, the German moves only a fraction, adjusting his rifle angle. But in this monochrome world, that fraction is enough. She fires. The bullet strikes him above the eye. He drops instantly. Leonid mutters, "That's a new kind. They're sending men right into your teeth now." She continues scanning. They're desperate. And desperate enemies are unpredictable. Just before dusk, the Germans attempt something they haven't tried in months, an infantry push supported by armored cars. Engines roar, boots pound frozen ground, officers shout through the wind. Leonid hisses, they're charging the ridge. She takes a deep breath and settles into the cold earth. Her rifle becomes an extension of her heartbeat. The first German rises over the crest. Crack. Then another. Crack. A third. Crack. She works the bolt without conscious thought. Fire, eject, load, fire. Leonid whispers numbers under his breath. 103, 104, 105. German soldiers fan out, trying to flank her position. She shifts just enough to angle a new shot. Crack. Another body drops. Their advance falters. They came expecting to storm a trench line. Instead, they've walked into the crosshairs of the most lethal woman in the siege. Within minutes, the attack collapses. Not from artillery. Not from machine guns. From one rifle. One woman. When the ridge grows quiet again, she finally lifts her head. Smoke drifts from her barrel. Her breath fogs the air in slow, steady pulses. Leonid lowers his binoculars, staring at her with something between incredulity and awe. They're going to write about you, you know. She shakes her head. Let them write later, we survive first. Yet even she cannot deny what she feels now, a shift, subtle but undeniable. A weight settling on her shoulders, not burden, not pride, something deeper. Responsibility. Because she knows her rifle is no longer just a weapon. It is a message. A declaration carved into the frozen hills around Sevastopol. You will not take this city. Not easily. Not while I still have breath. Tomorrow, the Germans will come again. With new tactics. New counter-snipers. New attempts to break her resolve. But tomorrow, she will return to this ridge. Snow, smoke, blood, or fire. Because this is not the end. This is the middle. And her legend is still growing, faster than the Germans can kill their fear. The snow settles over the ridgeline like a burial cloth, softening the scars of battle but hiding none of its truths. Her rifle rests across her lap, warm from hours of firing. Leonid sits beside her, silent, but with the unshakable expression of a man who has witnessed something mythic take shape in real time. June 6, 1942, Sevastopol's western bastion. By now the city is a cratered moon of shattered stone. Fires burn day and night, their orange glow reflecting off the Black Sea. German siege artillery, massive guns hauled in from across the continent, pound the cliffs with mechanical precision. Each impact sends dust cascading through the tunnels like water down a mountainside. The fortress shakes, men shake with it. But she does not. She moves through the trenches as she always has, calm, steady, composed, her Mosin Nagant strapped across her back like a part of her spine. Her total confirmed kills have soared beyond 200. She does not keep track anymore, command does that for her. Her presence lifts morale wherever she walks. Soldiers straighten, officers nod with quiet respect. Some whisper her name like a charm meant to hold the line together. But today, as she climbs toward her observation post, something feels wrong. Not in the air. Not on the ground. Inside her. A low ache, exhaustion beyond anything she has known. She ignores it. Dawn Sapon Ridge. The sky is gray, streaked with smoke trails. German positions across the valley churn with activity, trucks backing into new shelters, artillery crews loading ammunition, infantry forming assault groups. They are preparing something big. Leonid raises his binoculars. Movement on the right flank, at least a company, probably more. She settles into position. Her cloak is tattered, her gloves worn through at the fingertips, but her eyes remain razor-sharp. She lines up her first shot of the morning. A German NCO steps into view, shouting orders. "Crack!" He drops. Leonid calls out 200 and. She cuts him off with a small shake of her head. Counting means nothing now. But she notices something strange. The Germans aren't scattering. A sniper kill usually sends them diving for cover. Not today. Today they keep advancing, heads low, but moving in disciplined lines. "Something's off," Leonid murmurs, echoing her thoughts. Then he sees it. Loudspeakers. A row of armored cars pulls forward. Mounted on them are speakers just like the ones used months earlier, but this time they do not call out bribes or propaganda. This time they blast music. A German march thunders across the valley, drowning the sound of individual rifle shots. A psychological tactic, noise to mask fear, to break rhythm, to overwhelm concentration. Leonid curses, "They're trying to disrupt your timing." She narrows her eyes and ignores the pounding brass echoing through the hills. She fires. One downed. Fires again. Another downed. The music grows louder. A third shot. Then, a streak of dust detonates inches from her face. A sniper. A good one. Better than the last three. Better than any she has faced in months. Leonid slams his shoulder into hers, pulling her lower behind a rock. "Move," he's bracketing your position. She rolls, grabbing her rifle, crawling through slush and shattered concrete. A second shot whips past her ear, tearing a chunk from the stone. She dives behind another ridge outcrop. "Distance," she whispers. Leonid strains through his binoculars. Hard to see. 800 meters, maybe 9, roof of the pillbox near the tree line. A long shot. But not impossible. She braces herself, elbow planted. Her breath fogs the scope. Wind left. Distance long. Enemy patient. Experienced. She exhales. Crack. A puff of smoke appears on the pillbox roof. Not a hit, just a near miss. The enemy fires back instantly. The round strikes the rock in front of her. Stone shards explode like a burst of glass. One fragment slices across her forehead. Hot, sharp pain. Blood spills down her temple, blurring her vision. Leonid grabs her shoulder. "You're hit." She wipes her face with the back of her glove. "It's nothing." But blood continues pouring, a deep, warm stream cutting through the frost. She steadies her rifle again, forcing her eyes to focus. Leonid's voice is tight. "Your vision, stop, you can't." She fires anyway. The bullet tears across the valley and slams into the pillbox opening. A shape falls. Leonid gasps, "You got him." She lowers her rifle. And the world tilts. She collapses onto her side. The snow feels warm. Her gloves feel heavy. The sky spins, dimming around the edges. Leonid shouts her name, pressing his hand against the gash on her forehead. "Stay awake, medic, medic." Footsteps thunder behind them. A stretcher team arrives from a tunnel entrance. They lift her with frantic speed. Her vision flickers. The battlefield fades to white. She hears Leonid shouting. She hears artillery. She hears her own heartbeat slowing. And then she hears, faint, almost lost in the wind, the familiar German loudspeaker crackle. But this time it does not mock her. It does not plead. It simply says, in a tired voice of resignation, "Where is the woman? Where is the red spider?" Then darkness. Hours later she wakes in a bunker hospital, bandaged, pale, barely conscious. A Soviet surgeon leans over her. "Comrade Pavlichenko, the wound is serious. You cannot return to the front." She tries to sit up. "I have to, Leonid, Sevastopol." He shakes his head. "Orders from the top, you're being evacuated. You've done more than anyone could ask. Your life is too valuable now, too symbolic." She tries to resist, but her strength is gone. Soldiers carry her toward the evacuation tunnel. She glimpses the ridgeline one last time, smoke curling into the sky, artillery flashes lighting the cliffs, the Black Sea shimmering far below. She will not return to her nest. She will not fire again from this ridge. This is the moment her war changes forever. Because the Germans failed to kill her, failed to break her, failed to stop her rifle. And now the Soviet Union will make sure she survives. Not as a sniper on the ridge, but as something far more powerful. A symbol, a voice, a legend who lived. She is carried through the dim evacuation tunnels, half-conscious, the world reduced to muffled echoes and flickering lantern light. Her rifle, mud-stained, blood-stained, faithful, is taken from her hands and placed gently beside her stretcher. It is the first time since Odessa that she is separated from it. June 20, 1942, aboard a hospital ship leaving Sevastopol. Waves slap against the hull as the vessel flees the dying fortress. Sevastopol burns behind them, columns of smoke twisting into the sky like the last breaths of a wounded beast. She lies in a narrow bunk, head bandaged, listening to the distant thunder of artillery fading with each mile. She survived. The city will not. A nurse sits beside her, checking her pulse. Rest, you've earned it. She tries to sit up. The men leonid the line. The nurse gently pushes her back. You can't go back, orders from Moscow. She closes her eyes. For the first time in a year, she is not part of the battlefield. She is separate, useless, sheltered. The guilt presses heavier than any wound. By the time she reaches the mainland, she is greeted not as a patient, but as an icon. Late July 1942, Moscow. Soviet officers escort her through crowded corridors where soldiers snap to attention as she passes. Her bandaged head has become a symbol, proof the famed sniper survived even as Sevastopol fell. Inside a meeting hall, a political officer spreads newspapers across a table, front pages covered with her image, her silhouette, her rifle. You are needed, he says, not at the front here. She frowns. To do what? Sit in hospitals, pose for photographs. No, he replies, to speak. She hesitates. Speak to who? He steps closer, his voice lowers. To the world. September 1942, Washington, D.C. She stands on a stage facing a sea of faces, thousands gathered beneath the autumn sun. Flashbulbs explode, reporters scribble notes. American officers in immaculate uniforms stand at attention. She never imagined she would leave the front. Never imagined she would cross an ocean. Never imagined crowds would cheer her name. But now, wounded, recovered, uniform pressed clean for the first time in months, she grips the podium and feels the same calm focus she once felt lining up a shot. She speaks, halting at first, then with rising steel. I am 25 years old, she begins, her voice carrying across the crowd, and I have killed 309 enemy soldiers. Shock ripples through the audience. But she continues. Don't tell me women cannot fight. Don't tell me we cannot stand our ground. I fought for my homeland. I will continue fighting with my voice until your sons join us in the struggle against fascism. The crowd erupts. Even the First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, invites her to tour the country, universities, factories, military bases. Everywhere she goes, she is met with astonished admiration. Americans have never seen a woman like her. She shakes hands with politicians, appears on radio broadcasts, and stands beside generals who speak her name with reverence. But in every hotel room, every reception hall, every polished interview stage, she misses the ridge. The snow. The slow, steady breath before a shot. She misses the war she was built for. But she carries it inside her. 1943–1945. Return to the USSR. She continues her work not as a sniper but as an instructor. Young men and women line up before her, hanging on every word as she teaches them the lessons that kept her alive. Patience, stillness, discipline, responsibility. She trains hundreds, indirectly perhaps thousands. Every one of them carries a piece of her into the field. Victory Day 1945, Moscow. Fireworks crackle above the city, crowds roar in celebration, soldiers embrace in the streets. She stands quietly on a balcony watching the explosions of color reflect off the Kremlin's red walls. Around her, the world celebrates, but she feels a familiar ache, pride, sorrow, memory all tangled together. Her war is long over. But her legacy is only beginning. She is no longer the girl crawling through Odessa orchards. No longer the ghost stalking the ridges of Sevastopol. No longer the legend whispered among German ranks. She is something larger now. A survivor. A soldier. A symbol of defiance written into the bones of a nation. Lyudmila Pavlichenko. The most lethal woman in recorded history. The sniper whose name the Nazis feared. The soldier they sent platoons of hunters to kill. The woman they tried to bribe, intimidate, outshoot and failed. The red spider who lived. Who fought. Who endured. And whose rifle, silent now, rests in a museum as proof that sometimes a single woman, with a steady hand, can change the course of a war.